Hello, everybody. I'm Ed Robinson, and welcome to another exciting edition of the League Wraparound. This is the program that gets you caught up on anything and everything happening around the National Football League. Coming up on this edition of the program, we have your Week 2 game picks, plus my game of the week, and I'll give you, my thoughts on one of the top receivers in the National Football League, as he had a little trouble on his hands on his way to a game. So that's all coming up on this edition of the program. Plus, we'll give you the latest on an important cable and satellite provider and their dispute with a popular channel. So that's all coming up on this edition of the program. But before we jump into Week 2, let's give you the scores from Week 1's games in the National Football League. The Thursday night opener between the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs would hold on to beat the Ravens 27-20. The game in Sao Paulo, Brazil, between the Green Bay Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles would win 34-29. The New Orleans Saints handled their business, beating the Carolina Panthers 47-10. The Minnesota Vikings took care of the New York Giants 28-6. The New England Patriots upset the Cincinnati Bengals 16-10. The Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Atlanta Falcons 18-10. The Houston Texans beat the Indianapolis Colts 29-27. The Buffalo Bills beat the Arizona Cardinals 34-28. The Chicago Bears beat the Tennessee Titans 24-17. The Miami Dolphins beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 20-17. The Seattle Seahawks beat the Denver Broncos 26-20. The Los Angeles Chargers took care of the Las Vegas Raiders 22-10. The Dallas Cowboys had no problems as they beat the Cleveland Browns 33-17. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat the Washington Commanders 37-20. Sunday Night Football saw a thriller in overtime in the Motor City as the Detroit Lions beat the Los Angeles Rams 26-20. And Monday Night Football saw the return of AaronRodgers, but the San Francisco 49ers, they took care of business, beating the New York Jets. Final score 32-19. And those were your scores from Week 1's games in the NFL. All right, as always, I like to start off talking about my top 3 storylines. I like to start off talking about the TyreekHill situation. Last week, in Week 1's NFL action, the Miami Dolphins took on the Jacksonville Jaguars. As wide receiver TyreekHill was on his way to the stadium where the Dolphins play, Hill was detained by police officers. Now, this story made a lot of headlines in the news, and especially as the video hit social media. So you had people that viewed the video of Hill being detained by police officers on social media, and then they made national news with Hill being detained by police officers. Now, we saw the video, but we didn't see any audio from this until recently, when the audio was released of Hill being in a conversation with the police officers, and then we saw Hill being detained in handcuffs, forced to the ground by police officers, and they were on top of him, holding him down. Now, what the information that we got, as well as everybody else got, is that later on was that it was found out that Tyreek was driving over 100 miles per hour in a neighborhood with a speed limit of 55 miles per hour. And also in the audio, Mr. Hill was resistant in receiving instructions from police officers. For an example, in the video and in the audio that was released, it showed that one of the police officers asked Tyreek to roll his windows down. He refused to roll his windows down. Then they asked him to get out of the car. He refused to get out of the car. If you saw the video and you heard the audio, you could hear Tyreek being very resistant and being defiant towards law enforcement agents. And then that's when everything went downhill. When he was forced out of his car, detained in handcuffs, being forced to the ground, and you saw how it all happened. But bottom line was this. Hill was giving traffic citations for speeding and reckless driving. Now, before the audio was released, a lot of people were saying that this was all possibly a racist act, that Tyreek was being targeted because he was black and a professional athlete and so on and so forth. But it wasn't until the audio was released that things started to change quite a bit. It was actually on Tyreek's end that he resisted instructions or refused instructions from the police officers, and law enforcement, they had to act accordingly as well. When he was given instructions, Tyreek was not responding. Therefore, the officers, they had to do what they had to do in order to mediate the situation. Bottom line is this. Both parties are wrong in how they handled the situation. First off, the police officers were wrong for physically handling Tyreek like that, throwing him down to the ground, handcuffing him, and then on top of that, you're on top of him. There were not one, but there were 3 police officers that were on top of him, holding him down. And that situation could have took a turn for the worse had they been on him a little bit longer. Who knows what would have happened? I don't want to get into all of that, but bottom line is this. Police officers, they should have handled that situation a little bit better, maybe just handcuffing him and not forcing him down to the ground and things of that nature. And TyreekHill is in the wrong, too, because he refused to listen to instructions from police officers. They asked him to get out of his car. He refused. They asked him to roll his windows down. He refused to do so. Then he's in a war of words with police officers, telling them that he has to go to a game without listening to instructions from the police officers. This could have, if Tyreek would have just listened, I think this situation would have played out much differently, and they would have not had to get him detain him in handcuffs, force him to the ground, and all of this back and forth banter would not be happening all over social media and in the national media and worldwide media as a whole. Now, Tyreek did play in that game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he finished with 7 catches for 130 yards and a touchdown, as the Dolphins would win the game. But there's a lot to be said about this, not just in terms of how police officers handle situations like this, but also with individuals involved in this and how they can prevent things like this from happening, from being handled in that sort of way. Bottom line is this. Whenever law enforcement agents are doing things like this, it's just best to cooperate. TyreekHill did not cooperate. They asked him to do certain things. He refused to do so. And a lot of this could have been prevented in a lot of different ways. Bottom line is this. What I got from this situation is this. Both parties were at fault. The police should have not handled it the way they should have. Tyreek should have been more cooperative in the commands that the police officers were giving him. And then also, too, I firmly believe that before we jump to any conclusions, we need to find out all of the details. We need to see what the whole situation is all about before we assume it's the police officer's fault, or if it's TyreekHill's fault, or if it's a racist issue. Again, we don't discuss politics on this program, but we need to look at the whole scope of things. We need to look at it from a bigger picture and not a smaller picture, and find out all of the details, and then we can put 2 and 2 together and try to figure things out. Bottom line is this. This situation could have been much worse. I hope all parties learned from this. Tyreek was saying that he's still shook up from this, and he's going to learn from this, and hopefully everybody can learn from this to avoid things like this from happening again. My next storyline is going to be AaronRodgers. So we have to wait over a year for the return of, I can't say number 12 anymore, but number 8. And guess what? I was excited to see AaronRodgers back on the field. Any football fans, any broadcasters, any journalists, anybody in the media, just anybody, period. If you're a fan of football, you're a fan of great quarterback play, you were excited to see Aaron Rodgers return to the field, just like me. And I was very happy to see Aaron back out on the field. Now, what was my grade on his play Monday night against the 49ers? I give him a B-. Aaron made some solid throws. He missed his receivers at times, overthrowing them, but when he made those solid plays and made key passes, they were right on the money. Now, there were times, too, when his receivers missed wide open passes, the plays that when his receivers were wide open, Aaron put the ball right on the money, and they failed to capitalize. His receivers like Garrett Wilson, like Alan Lazard, there were moments where they could have caught those passes. They failed to do so. And then, 2, Aaron was only sacked 1 time in the game. That's pretty good considering how dominant that 49ers defense is. But bottom line is this. My grade on Aaron Monday night, B-. Happy to see him back on the field. Didn't play a great game, but he played a solid game. And hopefully he can learn from this going forward. Hopefully the Jets will be better. There are a lot of things wrong with that team. I'll get into all of that. And I've gotten into that, I should say, if you've listened to previous shows. But I'm just happy to see Aaron back on the field. My grade for him Monday night was a B-. I think he'll get better. I think the offensive line, they did their job, only allowing him to get sacked 1 time. Hopefully they can be pretty consistent as the season goes on. But I'm just happy to see that Aaron is back on the field doing his thing. Hopefully he can continue to improve and get better game in and game out. And for my last storyline is going to be the rookie quarterbacks. We had CalebWilliams, BoNix, and JaydenDaniels all make their NFL debuts in week 1. CalebWilliams, I thought Caleb in the Bears offense would be more up-tempo. They would be fast-paced. It wasn't the case with them despite beating the Tennessee Titans and their defense coming through in the clutch. Caleb, if I had to give him a grade, I give him a C-. The only reason why I give him a C- because he made some key plays late in the second half, and of course his athletic ability, God did just enough for him for me to raise his grade up to a C-. And then 2, the Bears defense, they came through for him in the clutch, him and the offense in the clutch as well. But again, I'll give him a grade of a C-. BoNix, my grade on him, B-. The Broncos, they lost in week 1 to the Seattle Seahawks. And Bo, he threw some interceptions. But I think what made me raise my grade a little bit higher for him was him scoring a rushing touchdown. That was big. And then the Broncos had a chance to win the game and beat the Seahawks. They fell short. But nevertheless, Bo, it was a little bit better than Caleb. And I think with him scoring a rushing touchdown and with his team having a chance to win the game but falling short, I would have to give Bo a B-. And the last rookie quarterback, JaydenDaniels. I give Jayden a grade of a B+. I give Jayden a grade of B+ because he got the ball down the field much better than Caleb and much better than BoNix. The offense was more up-tempo. Jayden really used his athletic ability in this game. Again, the Commanders, they lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 37-20. But in the second half, Jayden got the offense going. The offense was up-tempo. They got into a rhythm. Not only was Jayden making plays with his legs, but he was making plays, throwing his arm, using his arm, making key passes to players like Terry McLaurin and Brian Robinson Jr., just to name a few, and also Zach Ertz. So Jayden, my grade for him is a B+. Using his legs to extend plays, throwing the ball downfield, trying to make things happen. Even when the Commanders were behind, he still fought to the end. And I think I don't know if this, I think this could be something, a precursor for what could happen going forward for the remainder of the year, or at least maybe for up to the first half of the year, where we'll see BoNix, doing what he can do, what CalebWilliams doing what he can do, but JaydenDaniels, in my opinion, I think JaydenDaniels, knock on wood, if everything plays out well, could win Offensive Rookie of the Year. Again, it's week 1. It's early. You just never know. But right now, as far as the rookie quarterbacks were concerned, I think JaydenDaniels had the best performance out of the 3. CalebWilliams, C-. BoNix, B-. JaydenDaniels, B+. All right, that takes care of my top 3 storylines. And before we get into a preview of Week 2's most important games, I just want to give you an update on the current situation involving DirecTV and Disney-owned channels. So, for those of you that are DirecTV subscribers, whether you subscribe to DirecTV, DirecTV Stream, and Uverse, you are still in the dark when it comes to Disney-owned channels, which in layman's terms means you're still unable to watch the ESPN family of networks, as well as ABC and other Disney channels such as National Geographic, Disney Channel, also FX and Freeform, but particularly those that are sports fans. A lot of people were unable to watch Monday Night Football last week because of the continued contract dispute between DirecTV and ESPN and ABC. So bottom line is this: there's no timetable, according to what I've read from various media outlets. There's no timetable on when Disney and DirecTV will, or for those of you that are DirecTV subscribers, there's no timetable on when you'll have those channels back on your service, whether you have DirecTV or DirecTV Stream, or if you have Uverse. Again, and it's frustrating because this is one of the best times in sports right now, between late August and February. Remember, you've got college football, you've got NFL, you've got the last month of the Major League Baseball regular season, then you're going into the playoffs, and then the NBA regular season is going to be tipping off sometime before Halloween, and then you've got college basketball that's going to start revving up, and then the NHL. But particularly for people that listen to this show, especially that are NFL fans, this is going to sting. Again, if you are a DirecTV Stream, and a Uverse subscriber, again, there's no timetable on when those particular platforms will have Disney back on their channel lineup. There's nothing etched in stone. There were deals that were thrown on the table, but Disney had from what I read, Disney had a deal that was given to them from DirecTV. They turned down the proposal. DirecTV was given an option from Disney. They turned it down, so there's no timetable yet on when DirecTV will have the Disney-owned properties back on their channel lineup. That includes the ESPN family of networks, which is ESPN, PN2, ESPNU, SEC Network, ACC Network, also ABC and other Disney-owned channels. But if you are a DirecTV subscriber, that includes DirecTV, DirecTV Stream, and Uverse, you're eligible for credit on your cable bill. And the website, the link, I should say, is in the description box, so you can go ahead and find out how to claim your credit on your next bill. So DirecTV, that's cable and satellite. DirecTV Stream, that's the streaming platform that you download off the Amazon Fire Stick. And also Uverse is another cable service of AT&T. DirecTV Stream, and Uverse are all owned by the same company, which is AT&T. But just to kind of give you a recap on this situation, there's nothing. There's no definite date on when DirecTV subscribers will have access to ESPN, ABC, and other Disney-owned channels. But if you are a subscriber to DirecTV Stream, and Uverse, you are eligible for a credit which will go towards a bill in the future. So there's no the billing cycle. It may hit your bill next month. It may hit your bill in the next 2 months or 3 months. That's according to DirecTV. It's not going to be, you'll get the credit, but the credit won't be applied immediately. So that's where we stand right now. And this happens every year or every 2 or every 3 years. This always happens when you have networks, cable companies, satellite providers, contract disputes. It's just pretty nasty. And hopefully a lot of fans that are subscribers to DirecTV, they can get access to ESPN, ABC, and other Disney-owned channels. All right, that takes care of that. So now let's give you a preview of Week 2's most important games. Thursday night football, we have the Buffalo Bills going up against the Miami Dolphins. So Buffalo and Miami, they've had a rivalry for decades, just like back in the day with the classic AFC East division. We're in the modern-day AFC East division, and both of these teams, they're in the hunt. Both of these teams have the Super Bowl potential, and both of these teams have championship pedigree to make things happen. So let's start off with the Bills for a moment. Buffalo, tough game in Week 1. They beat the Arizona Cardinals. Josh Allen doing what Josh Allen does best, getting it done with his arm and his legs. So Josh most likely is going to play in this game on Thursday night. Suffered an injury to his non-throwing hand. You know, Josh is one of the toughest players, not just one of the toughest quarterbacks, one of the toughest players in the league. So certainly Josh is going to gut it out, give it all he has for his team. As for the Miami Dolphins, the Dolphins won a close game over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Tua Tagovailoa, solid game from him. TyreekHill, despite the whole situation with the traffic stop, he was able to concentrate and be efficient to help his team win the game. So Bills and Dolphins, both of these teams have Super Bowl aspirations. You have Sean McDermott going up against Mike McDaniel team. It's basically, this is going to be a game with strength versus speed. Buffalo prides itself on strength and work ethic. Miami is a team that's all about speed. And certainly this is going to be a game where you've got two contrasting styles. But hey, this is what makes great NFL games. This is what makes for great games, right? What they say, styles make fights, right? So this should be a great one between the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins on Thursday night. The San Francisco 49ers will square off against the Minnesota Vikings. First for San Francisco, dominant performance on Monday night, beating the New York Jets. No Christian McCaffrey, no problem. Jordan Mason handled his business in this game. Jordan said, Christian who? I tell you one thing, not just the credit to the 49ers running game, but kudos to the 49ers offensive line, because they made the Jets defense eat dirt in this game. And certainly Jordan Mason, he handled his business. And when Jordan was able to run the ball effectively against the Jets, Brock Purdy was able to make plays to Deebo Samuel, Jawan Jennings, George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk, just to name a few. So San Francisco playing typical 49ers smash mouth football, open up the running game opens up for the passing game. And they're going to go up against the Minnesota Vikings, who had an impressive performance against the New York Giants. No J.J. McCarthy, no problem. Sam Darnold, Sam handled his business in Week 1 in the New Jersey Meadowlands. Jordan Jefferson, Jordan Jefferson doing what Jordan does best, make great plays. Aaron Jones so far, what a week one he had, scoring a touchdown and getting close to 100 yards for the Vikings. And, of course, the Vikings defense was big against the G-men. So we got the 49ers and the Vikings. You know about this matchup for decades, right? Joe Montana, Steve Young, Jerry Rice, John Taylor, Brent Jones, Ronnie Lott, also Tommy Kramer, Wade Wilson, Anthony Carter, Steve Jordan, Darren Nelson, Randy Moss, Randall Cunningham, Dante Culpepper, Chris Carter, 49ers, Vikings. The rivalry continues, and, man, I think this is going to be an exciting game in Minneapolis. The next most important game for Week 2 will be the New York Jets going up against the Tennessee Titans. So first for the Titans, they lost a tough game last week to the Chicago Bears. Tennessee defensively was able to get to the rookie quarterback CalebWilliams, but it was the Bears defense that was able to hold off the Titans and giving Tennessee the loss. So Tennessee, they've got Tony Pollard and they've got Tajay Sharp in the running attack. Will Levis, we'll see what he can do in the Titans' home opener. As for the New York Jets, not the way they wanted to play on Monday night. The Jets defense got torched by the 49ers running game and that offense. The Jets defense hoped to be much better against the Titans this week. AaronRodgers looking for a better game. His receivers like Garrett Wilson and Alan Lazard, they look to be much better Tennessee Titans. So it's going to be Tennessee's home opener while the Jets look to get their first win of the season in Music City, USA, in Nashville. We've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against the Detroit Lions. So first for the Buccaneers, impressive performance against the Washington Commanders. Baker Mayfield, he had a solid game, 4 touchdown passes in this contest. Chris Godwin was good. Mike Evans was good in this game. Bucs offensively was sharp. Also, too, their defense was solid as well. And the Bucs head to the Motor City to take on the Detroit Lions. This is a rematch of last year's thrilling playoff game between the Bucs and the Lions. So for the Lions, impressive come-from-behind victory Sunday night in overtime to beat the Los Angeles Rams. So the Lions and the Rams, they had a rematch last week of their thrilling playoff game. Well, this week, the Lions will have another playoff rematch against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from last year. So with the Buccaneers, you've got Baker Mayfield, you've got Chris Godwin, you've got Mike Evans, Rashad White. And for Detroit, Jared Goff, he looks to play much better this week against Tampa Bay. Amon-Ra St. Brown looks to have a better game this week as well. Jameson Williams looks to continue his success. How about Jahmyr Gibbs? He looks to continue his success. And also David Montgomery, the man who scored the game-winning touchdown against the Los Angeles Rams last Sunday night. He looks to continue his success in this game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it should be a throwdown in Motown with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Detroit Lions. The Cincinnati Bengals going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. For the Bengals, they were upset last week by the New England Patriots. Joe Burrow didn't play his best game. He's looking to bounce back from this one. Jamar Chase, hopefully we'll get to see the Jamar Chase of the old in this game. As far as Kansas City, they won the Thursday night opener, beating the Baltimore Ravens in a tough game. And when you think of Bengals and Chiefs, of course you think about last year's playoff game, and you also just think about the two quarterbacks that define these franchises in the moment, in the present day. Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes. Of course, we're going to see Jamar Chase. We're going to see Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice. We're going to see Xavier Worthy. Those players are going to show up. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the quarterbacks. It's going to come down to Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes. I think this is going to be another one for the ages in Kansas City between the Bengals and the Chiefs. We've got the Pittsburgh Steelers going up against the Denver Broncos. For the Steelers, solid win over the Atlanta Falcons last week. Russell Wilson did not play in last week's game, was a last-minute replacement. Well, I should say Justin Fields was a last-minute replacement. Leading up to the game, Russell was expected to play, but hours before kickoff, they said Russell would not play due to a calf strain, so Justin Fields came in. He was effective. He was solid. He did what he needed to do to get the job done. The Steelers' defense, they always show up. When don't they show up, right? Like T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward, just to name a few. Steelers' defense, they're always going to show up. That's their pedigree. That's been their bread and butter for decades. As for the Denver Broncos, losing a close game to the Seattle Seahawks last week, their home opener. In their home opener, they look to rebound from that. I know Coach Sean Payton, a very prideful man, a very prideful coach. I know he's putting his game plan together, not just on the defensive side, but especially on the offensive side. And BoNix, what awaits him in his first home game as the quarterback of the Denver Broncos? Will he be ready, or will he have a case of the jitters? But bottom line is this. The main storyline is if Russell Wilson is playing in this game, we have Russell returning to Denver, Sean Payton, Russell Wilson, Steelers, Broncos, storylines galore in this one. This should be a hard-hitting and an interesting game. Sunday Night Football, the Chicago Bears go up against the Houston Texans. Let's start off with the Bears. So Chicago won a close one over the Tennessee Titans last week. CalebWilliams didn't look impressive in his NFL debut, but he made plays when necessary, and the Bears defense came through to help Chicago beat the Titans. As for the Houston Texans, a come-from-behind victory over their AFC South rival, Indianapolis Colts. C.J. Stroud, last year's offensive rookie of the year, he came through in the clutch and made big plays to receivers like Stephon Diggs. And also Joe Mixon came up big in this game as well. And not just Stephon Diggs, but also Tank Dell and Nico Collins. But what it all boils down to is quarterback play. And in this modern-day NFL, it's about the quarterbacks. This is going to be about Caleb Williams versus C.J. Stroud. Both quarterbacks with strong arms, both quarterbacks with athletic ability, and this is what's going to come down to, the two quarterbacks, Caleb and C.J. Sunday Night Football, I think it's going to be an intriguing matchup with the Chicago Bears and the Houston Texans. Monday Night Football, the Atlanta Falcons square off against the Philadelphia Eagles. First for the Falcons, tough loss in Atlanta to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kirk Cousins did not play a great game at all. They struggled offensively, and they just could not get a touchdown to save their lives. As for the Philadelphia Eagles, they played their opener in Sao Paulo, Brazil, in an impressive game, beating the Green Bay Packers. So the Eagles will have their home opener. It's going to be Monday night. It is going to be an electric and a fiery and a spirited crowd in the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia. Falcons, Eagles, a lot of expectations for the Eagles this year with all the moves that they made, including acquiring Saquon Barkley, and a lot of expectations for the Falcons as well, trying to get their first victory of the season. So Monday Night Football should be an exciting one in Philadelphia between the Atlanta Falcons and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now it's time for my game of the week. My game of the week is going to be the Atlanta Falcons versus the Philadelphia Eagles. For the Falcons, they signed Kirk Cousins to a mega 3-year contract. And they put a lot on the table to sign Kirk, considering him suffering an ACL injury last season. The question is, will he be the Kirk Cousins that we've grown to know and love for quite some time? It remains to be seen. But Kirk is looking over his shoulder because the Falcons, they drafted a quarterback in the first round, Michael Penix Jr. So if Kirk doesn't play well on Monday night, or if he stinks up the joint, will they put Penix in the game? Hey, it remains to be seen. But they've got a lot of expectations in Atlanta with Kirk Cousins and what he can do this year. And there's also a lot of expectations with the Philadelphia Eagles. During the offseason, Saquon Barkley signs with the team. Devontae Smith gets a contract extension. They also acquire wide receiver Jahan Dotson in a big trade. So the Eagles have positioned themselves to win between now and the next 5 years. Jalen Hurts got a contract extension. A.J. Brown got a contract extension. So between now and the next 5 years, the Eagles are going to be in the running to win a Super Bowl. And expectations are high for both teams. And you got one team that's relying on a quarterback to get them to a Super Bowl, and you got one team that's relying on a quarterback to not only get them to win a Super Bowl, but to maintain consistent play between now and the next 5 years. Falcons and Eagles, you know their pedigree, right? Falcons and Eagles, if you remember that playoff game with Matt Ryan going up against Nick Foles, and then the following year, it was the home opener in another thrilling game. I think this game is going to be a really good one and an exciting game. And again, I think it's going to come down to quarterback play. Kirk Cousins going up against Jalen Hurts. And we're going to see two QBs do their thing. You've got one quarterback that primarily gets it done with his arm and the pocket presence. You've got another quarterback that's going to get it done not just with his arm, but with his athletic ability as well. And I think this is going to be a great game in Philadelphia with the Atlanta Falcons and the Philadelphia Eagles, my game of the week. All right, before we get on out of here, I'm going to give you my picks on who I think will win Week 2's most important games. Thursday Night Football, the Buffalo Bills going up against the Miami Dolphins. I like Miami to win. The San Francisco 49ers going up against the Minnesota Vikings. I like San Francisco to win. The New York Jets going up against the Tennessee Titans. I like the Jets to win. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against the Detroit Lions. I like Detroit to win. The Cincinnati Bengals going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. I like the Chiefs to win. The Pittsburgh Steelers going up against the Denver Broncos. I like Pittsburgh to win. Sunday Night Football, the Chicago Bears going up against the Houston Texans. I like Houston to win. Monday Night Football, the Atlanta Falcons going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. I like the Eagles to win. So again, my picks for Week 2's most important games are Miami, San Francisco, New York Jets, Detroit, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Houston, and Philadelphia. And there you have it. That's going to do it for this edition of the program. Thank you so much again, everybody, for tuning in. Till next time, everybody, I'm Ed Robinson saying so long, and you take care. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into the channel. Remember to click like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for watching.